So welcome back. Angela Forman is on the show, and we are going to continue our discussion that we started last time about the warden and the asylum, going into a little bit more details. And lots of people requested actually that I talk to you again because they like the show and they found it very informative, and there were lots of good comments under the video. So there we go. We are back. And how are you, Angela, today?
Yeah, good, and strangely not nervous. As I said to you before, I was thinking, do I have amnesia? You know, like usually because I hate public speaking. But today I was just like, yeah. And I was actually wondering if I'm going to have amnesia. So we'll see during the show, won't we?
Okay, cool. So one of the first questions I would like to ask you is about the warden and about this dog situation. So I mentioned in some of my videos that God is backwards dog, right? That's one of the ways how the, Freemasons, Illuminati, whatever we want to call them, they use these kind of words backwards, and then it's sometimes a meaningful word. Now, you told me that you have another experience about the warden and the dog situation. So could you tell us about that?
Well, yeah, I was kind of embarrassed to talk about it because I thought maybe it was fractured memory because we'll go more into this, but the whole dog thing. So the warden, when I was there, he loved dogs. Like, he absolutely loved them. He had his pet dogs, his little, was just mad about dogs. And one of the ways I got close to him to come down here was to actually look after his dogs. And I just thought, this is too stupid. Like, why? This doesn't make any sense. And then I actually found out that I was born in the year of the dog, which is kind of strange. That's kind of weird as well, but I only found out that much later after. I knew it before, but I never even thought about it.
Who was born in the year of the dog?
I was.
You were, okay.
Yeah. And I know there are previous wardens, which we can talk about later. But yeah, he loved his dogs.
So you were in the warden's realm and you were looking after his dogs. Is that what you're saying?
That's how I got close to coming here. Like, basically, I was sort of stuck there, and I somehow worked my way. And I just thought, this must be fractured memory. Look, we didn't talk about it very much in the previous show because I thought it's just too stupid. Like, and also the look of him was too stupid. Until I watched The Hunger Games, which you just got me to watch last weekend, which I refused to watch before because it just was kill or be killed. Yeah. And I actually have a screenshot which is like a cameo role of him. But yeah, he loves his dogs. Yeah.
Right. So you also told me that you were able to identify him. So could you tell me about that? So who is the warden? Who was the warden?
Well, there's several wardens, which kind of makes sense. It wasn't until today that a friend of mine, Randy Owl, on Facebook actually said to me that maybe the reason why there's previous wardens is because there's previous resets, which kind of makes sense to me now, because it's like bits and pieces. You've got to put them all together. But I don't believe, going back to dogs, I don't believe that dogs evolved to become man's best friend. Like, it's ludicrous. Like, you see wild dogs, like as in dogs that are stray dogs, they're just feral, like feral cats. They don't survive very well. You've got wolves and dingoes and things. They're a completely different species and breed. And actually, I'm not sure about the DNA thing, but I've had someone tell me recently they're totally different structure to normal dogs. Now, did they just breed their way into becoming man's best friend? Or did the warden actually make them to be, because he loved those dogs, I can't describe it. I don't know how do we, you can actually look at my screen. Is there a way you can look at my screen on this? I've got a picture. It's from the first Hunger Games. Have you been able to watch that? Because you've actually missed the first one.
Yes, I watched it. I watched it, yeah.
Okay. And it's at 35 minutes, and I've got a screenshot. And if you, is there any way you can share my screen? Like, if you can look at my screen?
You can click on the share at the bottom. And
okay, how do I do that?
Share the screen.
How do I do that?
Just hover over the bottom part of the screen, and then you will see a share
share
icon. Click on that, and then select your screen.
Share screen. Okay, this one. Can you see that?
It's loading. Yeah, I can see that now.
see the guy to the right of the guy with the black hair?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what he looks like. And he also, Will Ferrell played him, because I didn't watch that movie until not recently as well, in Zoolander, and he always had a dog on his fucking lap.
Yeah,
now,
that's
when
what I
I
wanted
first,
to get to. Yeah.
yeah, he always had a fucking dog on his lap. But then I'm watching, after you told me to watch The Hunger Games, which I refused to watch because I didn't like the kill or be killed thing. Like, it freaked me out. I just didn't want to watch it because it just seemed sick to me. But then there's so many more messages in that movie, like unbelievable. Like she even shoots the dome.
Yeah, exactly.
He's only, as far as I know, in the whole Hunger Games series, I only saw him in one screenshot, and I saw him and I thought, oh, I've got to share that with Barnabas. This is freaking weird.
So you also told me that this is how these people who run the show, run the asylum, look like, right? They look ridiculous, basically.
Yeah. It was so crazy, which is why I said he's stupid in the last show, because their get-up was so crazy. But when I watched the Hunger Games, it's exactly the same get-up that they all had. Like, I couldn't have even imagined somebody would dress so stupid. And so I just thought maybe it was fractured memory, because I thought that's ridiculous. Like, why would I ever, like, no one looks like that. Like, no one looks like him.
Right.
Now, how do we go back to stop sharing, or do you want me to keep sharing? But they look like in the Hunger Games.
Just click on the...
Okay, stop share. Yeah, I got it.
Sure.
Yeah, so I just thought it's the most ridiculous get-up in these people up in the Warden's world. I thought this couldn't be real. Like, you couldn't, as you say, you can't make this shit up. I'd never seen anything like it. But this is years ago, and I'd never... When I watched the Hunger Games, I was just like, oh my God. Like, there's heaps of them, and they look exactly, they're as stupid as the Warden looks. But obviously they think that's fashionable or whatever they think.
Right. So you're saying that when you were in that Warden's realm, you met the Warden himself and you saw him, and it was Will Ferrell. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm not saying it is Will Ferrell, but he certainly looks like him.
Looks like him. And he also had dogs. So let me just share the screen now. And
have you got a picture of Will Ferrell with the dog?
I do. Yeah, so we'll just do that.
And when I watched that movie after having that trouble, I just thought, what the fuck? There's actually a rendition of him in a movie, and I thought, that's mad. That's crazy. That's why I thought that the whole thing was fractured memory. But now when I'm seeing movies, I'm like, maybe not so.
So can you see this share screen?
I can't see it yet. I can't see it.
Okay, just give me a second then.
Yeah. I'm sure that people will be patient. There was a few people that said, I don't care if it takes 4 or 5 hours, I want to hear more. So I think they can wait.
Let's stop share.
Okay, I'm getting it now. Yeah, he looked like that, but a little bit more like the guy with the purple hair.
Right, but this is the kind of costume and ridiculous hair, and that's what you told me, right? Yeah.
And I never watched that movie until after my travel, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And there he is holding a dog. Yeah. So I actually got close to him. I went in deliberately to trick, and once again, I'm thinking, are people ready to hear this? It's just me. It's my word. But I don't care if people believe me now, but they will one day, but it's interesting that I was born in the year of the dog, so maybe the Chinese calendar has a lot more to say behind it than what we think it does,
Right. And it's interesting that, the dog is the man's best friend, that the saying goes. So in this reset, it seems, at least in this reset, that, we have this dog who is, God, and also Will Ferrell has this dog. So, you can't make this stuff up. It's just
I know. When I saw it, I was just like, oh my God, that's the fucking Warden. And I was just like, what the fuck? And then when I watched the Hunger Games last weekend, I thought, this is ridiculous. There again, I'm seeing that crazy hairdo. And then I advise all people to watch the Hunger Games with an open mind again, looking at it, in a different way, to see, because there's so many messages, crazy hairdos, and everyone's got these crazy hairdos, and that's what they look like. And I just thought they were absolutely stupid. And that's why I said he's stupid, but I'm sure he's not stupid. He's definitely not stupid. He just looks stupid.
It definitely does. Okay, so another thing, I had a question that was posed here, so I'm going to open that up and bring it on the screen and read it for you. this on your show, and I thought it was a good question. So hopefully you'll have something there about that. So let me just share this here. So share desktop and share. Can you? No.
I can see a screen. Yeah.
No, it's not good. Let me just do this again. I have to cut this out.
So I'm just
It's
drinking
working.
from my.
Okay,
I'm
it's
drinking my
working
herbal
so
tea.
weird.
My immunity. Don't have your flu shots. Just drink herbs and.
Yeah.
So this is a mixture that makes up immunity. I call it. It's a tea that I sell. So I'm not trying to sell it to people, but don't go and have your flu shots. While you're doing that, I'll just put that out there. I can't believe the amount of advertising on flu shots on the radio today. I just honestly makes me sick. Injecting all these people.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. Okay, so I think I'm getting there now. So I want to share my screen here, and I'll click share, and here it is. So can you see the screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
So who created the warden? Warden eats, drinks, and makes sex like human and aliens. So who created the warden?
Well, that's a very good question, and one that I've been quite angry about in the past. I think that there's a supreme one beyond him, and we've discussed this to some level. So I have, it's a long story, but I've been or remembered or gone back to a time when there was a supreme one who actually didn't know what was going on. It's a bit like if you have your children and they're living all over the place, right? This is what I'm coming to. It's just my theory. Like, I'm not saying it's absolute fact, but it's like he didn't know what was going on. So if you have children, one's here, one's over there, you don't necessarily know what they're doing in their back garden or in their basement, do you? So he didn't know. And there was a meeting where it was decided that that it wasn't going to happen anymore. And obviously time's different out there than what it is in here. But I believe there's a supreme one, but it's certainly not the dog god of this world, the Bible one.
Right. So you believe that there's a creator who created the warden. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But he didn't necessarily know what he was doing. And so the Bible makes out like they know everything. But if you have like 100 children, or I don't know how many children he's got, whatever, or where we're all, that's not known to me yet. It could change. Next week I could get shown and I'll tell you, and we'll talk about it. But at this meeting, he didn't appear to know, but the judgment was made that it was a bad world, and it wasn't correct, and it was going to be stopped. So there's a lot of things left out of this meeting, and I don't know. I know that you follow me. I hope that everyone else does follow me. But it was a travel that I had, so I went there as a witness, and during that. When that happened, I remember when I first came back to my body, but then certain parts were white. But I remember afterwards, I'm not meant to know that information, like it was like secret information. But after that meeting, everyone was happy because the right decision had been made. And that is that this has got to stop, that it's unfair. And everyone was very happy. So I assume, and it won't be by our time schedule, it'll be by theirs, that I think things are already changing. We can see how they're desperately taking things off YouTube, and the so-called book burning has begun. You know, you're seeing people like Eric DeBay, Ed Shireen, different ones taken off. Like, for example, the nuclear hoax was banned off YouTube by Eric DeBay, and different videos that people are putting out that are completely harmless, but anything that makes people question the system is removed. So they're getting desperate. But they're also putting forward clues, because remember, it's so below, so above. There are laws above and below. You know, it's the same sort of system. They have laws that they have to follow.
Right.
Sure, they might have gotten away with this shitty system for a while, but I don't think it's going to go on. Yeah.
Right. But what I don't really understand, and I think some other people who commented under my video also shared this feeling, is that if there is a good creator, then how is it that he doesn't know about it? How would he allow this whole system to run? I mean, it doesn't take like, you don't have to be the same God as this, described in the Bible, that you know everything or you see everything, but still, like, it is your realm. You created this thing. So how is it that you don't walk around? You don't have, um, informants or, watchmen to watch over your realm. And how does it all happen? Why did you let it go on?
I don't think he's perfect. Like, everyone thinks he must be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like a child can have an ant farm,
Mm-hmm.
an ant farm, and the parent might allow it until someone else might actually point out that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a fair system. Those ants are suffering in that little plastic. You ever seen an ant farm?
Right. So you think that's what happened?
Yeah, and he needs to be called out as well, the creator of all, if he is the creator of all, but he's the creator of, or the father of the warden or whatever.
Right.
I'm not sure, but he needed to be called out, and it was a trial, because, yeah.
So you said that there was a meeting where it was decided that this asylum has to stop, correct?
Yeah, the way it's going, it's running correctly. It's unjust.
Right. Yeah. So if that was the decision, why is it not stopping? What's hindering the good creator to stop this thing? What's your opinion?
I think time is different outside to in here. It's just completely different. So what we think is time. There's other factors as well. There's things that need to be sorted out. Like they say that even the NPCs, is that what we're calling them now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the terminology? I call them ignorance, but what are they? NPCs.
The non-player characters, NPC.
Yeah, they're important too. So there's some things that need to be sorted out that are above what we know. There's a lot more to it.
Mm-hmm.
That can't just be, you can't just wipe us out. Maybe, who knows, maybe the decision was made, because I don't remember the actual decision, I just remember it was good. Maybe the decision is made for us to make a choice to research now and find out. And like, that's why I came forward. It was very difficult for me, as you know, to come forward, because who am I? This is Angela Forman. But a lot of people believe me, and I hope they do, because it's the truth. And if I'm being deluded, then, well, so I don't think that I am, but people can think that I am. But maybe now's the time for people to seize the opportunity. People who don't care to research or don't care to think outside the box, or they hang on to their stories and they like their stories, or the people who like the reincarnation cycle, they can stay. But others will hear this message, and I think they'll be directed to it, to know that they can leave. And I think that is the difference. Because some people want to go and be recycled. Like, they love it. Have you ever met those people? These people that love reincarnation, and they're just like, oh, I used to be this person, I used to be that, and I'm learning lessons. Well, no, I'm sorry, wiping my memory and is not a fair system. Well, I think the difference is that now we can leave. That's my personal opinion.
Right.
And I think that's a great movement,
So you think that there would be a better way to run this system, the asylum? So there would be a place in this realm to actually run this well?
Well, for ones that want to come here, but not ones that have had their memory wiped and are doing it unwillingly.
Mm-hmm.
Some might want to play this game. They might want to play like the Hunger Games thing.
Do you think that there are some people like that?
Oh yeah, I've met them, lots of them. Oh yeah, you get the ones who are full on to the reincarnation. They love it. Mm-hmm. They think it's great. And I was always like, I believe you. This is years ago. Like, I believe that reincarnation exists, but fuck that. I'm not doing that. I don't agree that it's right. Like, it's wrong, but it's their choice. So the thing is, I think the change, and this is just me from my travels and from what I've been thinking about, is that we now have the choice to leave if we want to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what do you think?
Been decided.
So what do you think about the white tunnel and going into the light?
Don't fucking go. Don't go. Unless you want to be recycled, which is their choice, and there's all these people, they love the white light, they love the light workers, they love all that stuff. And that's their choice. Well, me, no, I want to have full disclosure. And I think that's what we need to ask for, is full disclosure.
Okay. So do you have like an experience like one of your travels where they actually told you that, the white light is a trap, or is it just what you have seen on, movies? Like, I had a video about this, so
Oh, no.
most of the people know about this. But if you had any experience about this.
Something kept me back. As you know, since I was a child, I saw entities and different things. And people would constantly tell me to look at this person or go to this guru or look at this. It's not that, because you know that I'm a researcher, I research all things, but certain things I just didn't want to go there, and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't. It was only, I knew that I needed to find all my own experiences in the ether. I knew that I had to do that because I don't know. I didn't know at the time, but I knew that something was telling me, my inner spirit was telling me, don't be influenced. So I didn't even watch movies until you gave me a list of movies to watch that were related to this.
So about the white light, did you have like an experience,
Yeah, well, I was trying to come back into my body. And so literally, so when you leave in your body, and I'll tell you a bit about an experience with an ambulance officer, which I've told you about because we've talked extensively. I was trying to come back into my body, and they had a few messages. One of them was, all communication is a lie. And you've discussed that on your videos, and you're the first person that's ever, and I didn't even know until after we started talking that you'd done the Black Mirror video and stuff like that. Yeah. And I had asked heaps of people that are in the know, in the top level, what do you think about this? What do you think about the fact that all communication is a lie? So before it's like almost like squeezing into, and I wasn't able to get back in. I could see my body, but I wasn't able to get back in. And they said to me that don't go to the light, it's a trap.
So they actually told you?
Absolutely, those words, but that's the translation. It's far more descriptive when you're in the ether, in the aether, I should say. So it's far more.
How do we know that those entities that told you this were good ones or bad ones? Maybe they were trying to, trick you. There were some people under your video commenting and saying, the warden, whatever you have seen is probably you were tricked. So how do you know that this is a real information, this is the truth, and it's not from a trick?
I've always known because growing up, and I've done radio shows on a Jehovah's Witness upbringing, my mother becoming Jehovah's Witness, and the trickery of the name Jehovah and all this sort of stuff, and also the background of the Jehovah's Witnesses and how they own more docs than the mafia in Brooklyn, all that sort of stuff. They've got a checkbook. So I decided that for a little while I turned against everything to do with the spiritual world, everything. So then I decided that, no, there's a way. And it was just me. No one told me. I said, so I will go through a list. You have to be telling me the absolute truth. You have to be good. Full disclosure. I will go through a list. The good ones, the ones who are helping free us, the ones who are wishing well upon us. I will go through all this long list before I ever spoke to them. And I didn't know why I did it, but I do now. But you have rights in every realm, just like you do on earth, so above, so below. You have rights. If you're just saying, dear God, or dear Yeshua, or whatever they call him, you don't know his name. He hasn't told you. You need to describe who you're talking to. So if I'm still being tricked, well, then obviously we're all fucked. But that makes sense.
So,
really. I do a description and I demand it. And there's some recent things where, so often they'll take human form. And I said, no, I want to see you in your true form. And it's a very different thing. It's like a energy, like a smoky energy, because that's their true form, when they come into Earth.
Right. So what you're saying is that you believe that this is the truth and this is not a trick because you go through an interview with them, you test them.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I test them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't rely on any human words. Like it's all description. And I think it's very important to use description because you can be tricked unless you use description. So if you're just saying, dear God, which God? If you're saying Yeshua, okay, and I might get some people really get angry with me, over this, or Jesus. You don't know his name. He didn't tell you. You could describe the person that you're describing as Jesus, who you're talking to, But don't use a name that's written in a book by a human being. No, don't use
Right.
that.
So for us, if we, you know, like any of the viewers here, if anyone would meet an entity, you know, in a dream or out of body experience, could you share with us what test, what questions should we ask those entities to reveal their true self?
Well, I would say you can only come to me if you're good, if you have good intentions, if you're being truthful, and I've done this. If you're being truthful, honest, I want full disclosure, and you can say that to them. And whatever comes to your mind, but it's very important that it be the truth and full disclosure.
Okay. What else? Just tell us a couple of ideas, what you use.
Well, I would say the good ones, the ones looking after humanity, and I'm not talking about the NPCs, although apparently they're important too, which is another story. But yeah, I would go through the whole list, the ones wanting good for all, the truthful ones. Basically, it changed each time, but very similar things. It was always full disclosure.
So just give us a couple of questions that you would go through. You said you know, one already, but is there another one that you could, you know, we could use that could be like a template? You know, I know that.
Well, you cannot come to me unless you're telling the truth, unless you're showing me the truth, and you're a true one and a good one, and without evil intent. That's one of the things that I've said.
I see.
Yeah.
What else?
And it must be with full disclosure. Full disclosure is what I've been using recently, which has helped me decipher. Yeah. But it must be ones with good intent, the good of me. You could say the good of me, the good of humanity, and the truth and full disclosure.
Right.
I think each person needs to find their own words, because I'm not here to teach people how to do what they need to do personally. You know?
Obviously, I'm just looking for, you know, just like some sort of, you know, hints, because it can be totally new for some people. So, for instance, in my video about don't go into the light, kind of reincarnation cycle, there was this Star Trek movie scene where the captain met this entity who was acting like his father, and he used nice words, you know, come with me, I will make it easy for you, you know, things like that. So when you say to that entity, I want full disclosure, then he says, let's say, I'm just trying to this scene. Let's say, I'm just your father, I really want to help. So let's say he tricks, you know, tries to lie, or maybe you don't pose that question in the correct way. So what else questions can we pose to
well, she kept asking questions, remember? She kept asking questions until she got to the bottom. And I think, like, I wouldn't want to give people a mantra to say, because that would be wrong. And I don't believe in mantras, because then it becomes dogma. And I think they just keep asking questions. But yeah, I got a lot out of that. And I told you about the travel I had, and I don't know, should we go into that? It's pretty deep. The other night, because... Oh, should I talk about that? About how he took me up to the realm, or is that a bit too deep for people at this stage?
I don't know, but so going back to what we were talking about, the questions. So basically, what you are suggesting is to keep questioning, right? So asking questions, and that is true for that digital realm, you know, inside the asylum as well. You know, whatever we see, whatever we experience, we have to question. Just like I've been in the Bible and never questioned it, you know, for 1 second, whether this is true or not. And only later, when I was really serious about finding out the truth, then that's when I started to question it. But we have to question everything, you know. That's why what I'm doing on my channel, I question every aspect of life, you know, time, you know, the internet connection, mobile phones, you know, devices, everything. We have to question everything.
I love your Black Mirror video. If anyone hasn't watched your Black Mirror video, please watch it, because Barnabas is the only one. I had asked so many people in like high research circles about this, and they were just like, huh? What's she talking about? You know, and I didn't even know till in your show that you'd done that you had listened to me before, and you obviously knew that I was onto something because you had thought about that before. But I think it's on your heart intent. Your heart intent. It's not on what you say, it's on your heart. So when they say your gut instinct, your heart, I think my personal feeling is our spirits. Some people say, and I'm not 100% sure. Some people say our spirits are outside and it's like we're playing a video game, but I don't think so, because I'm able to leave my body, as I talked to you about the other day, and I can feel it lift out, and it comes back in. But the brain is disconnected from this, and I'm able to somehow do this, but it's on your intent. So they can read your mind quite literally. It's easy for them. So it's on your intent. So if you're doing a mantra that's based on, say, what I say, then it probably won't work.
Right.
It has to be from your heart. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And you have to ask in your own way for the truth and full disclosure in your own way. Yeah.
Okay. So you also mentioned this, all communication is a lie. So when you say that, you probably don't mean that, when you meet someone, and you talk to them face to face, you mean technology, communication via technology, right?
Yeah. I was shocked because when I say they said to me, all communication is a lie, it came with a whole heap of other information. And straight away, I looked up in the morning about telephone lines under the sea. Like, this is going back years ago. This is ridiculous. And it just all made sense, even though I'd forgotten all the information that they'd given me, but I had enough left because my spirit obviously knew, but this slime brain didn't remember. It's ridiculous. The same 3 copper wires, I knew that when I woke up, I knew when I came back into my body that these 3 wires, the 3 copper, it's madness. Really? It's going to send all that through here, video. I'm talking to you, you're talking to me. And also the undersea cables. We know that satellites don't exist. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We know that. Because otherwise, if I went up to a mountain, then I would have great reception. But no, instead, have to be near a land-based,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Basically, it was about, it's a toy phone. So he's upped it and stepped it and made us think slowly that we actually wouldn't, has made us think that we had this phone, now we've got this, and now we've got that. And I mean, now we've got, like, you can watch a movie and what does it say? So if you do subtitles, then it says AI media translated, I've been looking at everything so differently. So as the pieces come together, and it wasn't until I met you that I actually thought I could come forward. Because I thought, I can't stand gurus, and I don't want to be a guru, and I won't be a guru to anyone. I want people, because everyone has to connect themselves. They can't use somebody else to connect them to the outside. They have to do it themselves, because it's none of my business. Basically, that's what they say. It's none of my business.
So back to what you said about the communication is a lie. The technology, communication. Do you agree with what I said about the undersea cables that connect us to the
I knew that years ago, and I was just like, and my best friends heard me and they were like, it's fake. But it wasn't until I saw your video on the fakeness and I was just like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to go from Australia to America and within 5 seconins under the sea, with the waves and the rocks, and anyone who goes fishing knows that things get snagged.
And the sharks, the actor shark.
Oh God, that was so ridiculous. And the sign. Oh, don't put your anchors here. Well, how do they see that?
Yeah, exactly. So do you also think that we connect to the ether when we communicate? Like when I talk to you now, do you think that we connect to the ether? Yeah.
And the bad ones are trying to obviously stop us from communicating. Like, I've seen so many of my good friends' channels shut down. And if they're not shut down, they have to restart their channels 5 or 6 times.
Right. What I also experienced is sometimes when I talk to someone and it's like a very interesting, very important topic. It happens with my best friend Jason, and then we go into a very sensitive, important subject. Suddenly the line just drops. It just disconnects for some reason.
Yeah, it's we've never been in control of it. So it's all departmentalized. You've got the people who make the wires, you've got the people who put them together, you've got the people who the technicians who are, experienced in this stuff apparently, whatever, they've been trained, which means they've been mind controlled, all this when they go to uni, a lot of these courses and different things, they're experts in brainwashing, as far as I'm concerned. And they'll fight you to the nth degree that yes, it's changed. I've spoken to local people, like the local cable guys. Our copper wires haven't changed in 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're the same ones.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's what I use. I've turned off the Wi-Fi. And honestly, or even this is going to throw a spanner in the works. If someone wants to say something differently, just tell me. But the 5G, I know it can be used as an energy weapon, so they say, which I think is quite probable. But I think it's always been the same, and they always could. I don't think they're increasing it. They're just saying 3G, 4G, 5G. It's always been the same power to do the same thing all along.
They always just put a limit on it, just like with the internet connection. So obviously we had broadband connection to the ether before. It's just that they limited it. They filtered it, right?
Yeah, they filtered it.
Yeah,
like
so
they
it's
gave
the same
1 second
thing.
delay in the 70s. It was a 1 second delay. 80s, a 2 second delay. 80s, a no second delay.
Yeah.
And now we're so experienced. AI, I've even been watching movies lately, and I look at the so-called sets. Like we were talking about that the other day.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a real city to me. Now, I want to actually meet someone who says they actually CGI'd that. I mean, NASA does a fucking terrible job of CGI. But they're in these cities. I think it was in Hunger Games and different movies. It doesn't look CGI to me at all. That's a question for another day, but I actually want to meet the person who actually does that CGI and show me how you did it, because it fucking looked real to me.
Yeah.
So that's another story. But
right. So
any other questions?
What you are saying about the 5G as well. So probably they had 5G all along. It's just they filtered it.
It's the same ether. Like, come on, it's the same thing.
Exactly.
Same energy. Maybe they're putting these things there, and they're chopping down some trees and showing us that they've chopped down the trees because it's 5G. That's just a photo opportunity. Come on. It's all in the atmosphere. It always has been. It's the same old. And I think it's always been. And the resets, they've always had that ability to do that.
Right. So the other thing I want to ask you about is the entities that walk around us. We talked about this a little bit in regards to the movie called They Live. And I will have just one video dedicated to They Live because it's just so much telling. But, what is your experience about meeting these entities?
Well, the other movie that I think that maybe you could put some links in with this show when you edit it, or you can do another show on it, is the movie that I watched accidentally, which is The Adjustment Bureau. Mm-hmm. Remember when I told you that? That kind of freaked you out, remember?
Yeah.
That's the first time I've ever seen you freaked out.
I'll have a video on that one as well. So
The Adjustment Bureau, watch that, people, because they do stand at the end of your bed and they can watch you. And that's about the diplomats for the warden, and there's also diplomats for the good ones. And you saw in that movie where there was a good one who actually helped him. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's a lot of non-truth thrown in there, but there's a lot of truth. So do you really want to hear about the entities? Because they're pretty freaky, but it's true.
Yeah, please do. So what entities have you met? Like the person you told me that you saw the eye change, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Well, it started when I was a child. I could see entities, right? So I've already discussed that in a previous video, and I advise anyone to watch that. The Watcher. I called him the Watcher, and then he became the diplomat, just through knowledge. But when I think it was around 2011, 2012, there's all these people talking about, because I'm a medical researcher, really. I own Gourmet Soap Kitchen. But I'm not just a soap maker. I'm a salve and healer, and I work with herbalists and doctors. So there was all these things going on about the lizard people with the slit eyes, and I had to explain to you slit eyes because obviously you're very good at English, but obviously some sort of change. And I thought, that's a bit crazy. But I had someone tell me like a year or two before that, Angela. So I get people come in, like cancer doctors, tell me stuff. I get people who invented who were part of the changing over from lead-free petrol, who would come in to tell me that they tricked them, that what they're using for lead-free is now much worse than lead. I would get people tell me they used to swim in the cooling ponds, just to tell me so I could spread the word, I suppose. But I don't know how they knew that I would, but they somehow knew. they would swim in the cooling ponds of the nuclear power plants, because we know that nukes are a hoax. And if anyone wants some links to that, of course, Eric Dubay's show has been banned, but there are ways to send it around. But
I have a show on that, so you can watch mine.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've watched that. But his show's been banned, so don't be surprised if yours isn't shortly, especially after this.
It won't be.
I don't think you can actually say you're not allowed to do that. I don't know.
Exactly.
In the ether.
Anyway.
So I thought that's a bit silly about the slit eyes, but I always keep my mind open, and the people that told me these things, I thought, they're legitimate, So I never expected to meet one, nothing, but I had been told, like, probably only a week before or so, or not very long, keep your eyes open, by a good friend of mine who's an electrician. And I thought, okay, well, fine, I will. And so there's this garden shop where I live, and it's a small garden shop. And this woman, she's kind of hunched over, kind of strange looking, very strange, kind of like her back is really bent. It's odd. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about different things, about a lot of the fruit trees, like the citrus trees, were dying, and talking to her. And then suddenly across the sky there was like chemtrails. And I said, do you think it could be something to do with that? And she looked at that with me, and suddenly her eyes went from pupils round to slits. And I thought, what? That must be like a reflection. And I'm like, what's going on? And as I followed her around, I kept looking at her eyes, and they kept going to slits. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. And I'm not crazy. Like, this happened. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe it's a reflection of something. But no, it wasn't a reflection. She was turning pupils to slits. And so I told my friends locally who I research with, who would talk about stuff. And I wanted to go and see her. So like a couple of days later, I wanted to bring them in to see her, because I thought, well, they'll be able to see her eyes go from pupils to slits. And I asked the boss where she was, and he said, she quit. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I don't know. She just said, I'm quitting, and she left. That very day,
it was the next
day that I was there, she quit that day, because she could see that I could see her.
Wow.
And we can go into some other entities if you want to. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about
so it's just like really similar to what we see in the movie They Live, right? So when the guy puts on the glasses, then he sees these entities, who they are, and their eyes actually change. Not to sleep, but anyway, just. Well,
there's many different entities, and I'll tell you about another one. Do you want me to talk about the next?
Yeah, sure.
There's many. Like, I've met. You never know if you're in the presence of a good angel either. They can be a homeless person. Mm-hmm. You just never know. But so there was this woman that used to come to my shop for many years, and she was very strange looking. She looked like she was in her 50s. Mm-hmm. But I actually wondered, and I had this is back before I was able to put pieces together at all. And I thought to myself, and I thought, that's ridiculous, Angela. I thought, is she 50 or 150? Mm-hmm. And I didn't know why I was saying that to myself. So she would come regularly. She was always after the life extending products that I've got, the teas, like the wormwood and different things that I have. And she would say, oh, my daddy's waiting for me. And she would hang around in my shop for ages. And her daddy, who looked the same age as her, like, who calls their father my daddy when they're that old? But she also had lots of makeup on, like lots of makeup. Mm-hmm. But she also looked like an Amish woman. Like, why would you, if you look like an Amish woman, why would you put makeup on that's, quite thick? Yeah. It made, I just thought, this is really odd. And she would try and pick my brain and different things. And then I started working from home because I closed my shop. But her daddy would wait outside for 2 hours. And I hate that word, like her daddy. And it wasn't like she was in a weird cult or anything. He was her father as far as what she was relaying to me. Right. But he looked back at the same age. And I just thought, this is weird. Anyway, so then when I started working from home, because I've got plant medicine all through my garden, she would come and she would spend a lot of time, and she would pick different things and plants from my garden, as well as get the life extending products. And I asked her what she made with this stuff, and she told me she makes a brew, and I've forgotten the brew. I didn't really think about it because I didn't really, something about her, I just thought, I don't really trust you, there was something weird about her.
Yeah.
And her daddy would be out there in his car, in his white station wagon for ages. He would wait and wait and wait. And it was one time she came, so she'd come about every fortnight or every month, I forgot, about every fortnight. And she came down, and I just felt a reason to sort of stand back from her, you know, something in her energy. I just thought, there's something weird going on. And she was always trying to pick my brain, when she came in. That's why she'd hang around so long. And she started to exude slime. And at first I thought maybe she was wearing hair gel and it was running down from her hair. And then it was so bad that the slime was actually going, like running down off her face and like down her nose. And I just thought, I need to get her a towel. I don't mean like a paper towel or a tissue. I mean like a towel. And I
it was
thought,
so bad.
No, it was literal slime, like clear slime coming out of her face. And I thought, this is fucking weird. But I knew to say nothing. Something told me, don't say anything. Don't say anything, Angela. So I just let her continue. And as we, you know, we did the transaction, I'm looking at her face thinking, oh my fucking God, like what is coming off your face? She didn't even seem to notice. I was just like, what? Her daddy suddenly started tooting the horn in his car. He always waited for hours. He was worried. And she started inviting me out to her place, which is out in the middle of nowhere, somewhere here, you know. And I'm thinking, I'm not going out to your house. No. And but she'd ordered things. She had things planned. She'd been coming to me for years, and there was nothing bad said. I never saw her again after that day when her daddy got upset because he knew that slime was exuding from her face. And I've asked many people, have you heard about the slime people? And it wasn't until that movie. What was the movie that you said with the slime people? I told you about the slime.
Yeah, the Dark Tower.
Dark Tower, and yeah, it has reference to that. But who she was and what she was, but an entity came to me that night, and I knew it was her. And I was just like, back off! You're never to come near me again. And I just knew it was her, and there was no reason. And you know, I could explain a lot more about meeting entities. And
right. So you're saying that some of these entities, you know, like
she was trying to read my mind, and she was shocked that I recognized her, and I was just like, so she's not a real human,
right. But they also have these the slime suit that basically we have as you called it,
Well, hers is obviously breaking down, you know. That's what I think. I don't know.
Okay, right. So another thing I wanted to ask you is about the pipes and the drag marks, because that was another movie that I you know, some of the comments in under the video we did together, they mentioned the mortal engines. So you watched that as well, and there were some references to the drag marks and the pipes. So what do you think about that?
I don't know. In that movie, you know, there was a boat that came out, you know, like they had a boat and it came out. Like, I hadn't watched any of these movies. They're kind of like movies, like The Matrix. Yeah, that's a huge movie and that's got a lot of messages. But a lot of the movies you got me to watch really aren't that, like, it's even hard to get them. I think you had to send that to me on some other thing, you know, that I can't even get in Australia. But I just know that there are pipes and drag marks, and I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? You know.
So, well, I think we could see the drag marks. You know, like the cities were moving, and they created these drag marks. So perhaps the drag.
Oh, mortal engines! I was thinking of another one that you said. Yeah, mortal engines. Yeah.
Yeah, and also the pipes were at the end of the city, you know, and also at the end of the church, what they used for a direct energy weapon, if you remember. So
and they also wanted to get to the gates, didn't they?
Yeah. So it's all
and do you know that was a box office flop? Like, really, that was a great movie. Maybe because I was looking for different things, but they went to the gates and they were trying to get there, and they tried to shoot the gates. And you know, this is what I'm talking about. There's ones on both sides. You know. Yeah,
exactly. And the other movie was the City of Amber. I'm not sure if you watched that one.
Yeah, I watched that one. Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about. Yeah,
lots of pipes again. So and the other pipe movie was again The Matrix. So in the trilogy, the last episode, Revolutions, when Neo goes together with Trinity, goes to the Machine City, and then he says, just follow follow the lines, follow the pipelines, and it's 3 lines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that on your drawing there were also 3 pipes.
And I didn't know when I was drawing. I drew that under. So I basically asked, as an artist, you often draw in like a trance. You'll ask any artist. You go on a different level, and I just went into. And I don't even want to redraw it. Like I draw it really perfectly, but I knew I drew that one correctly, as in that's what came in a message for me. So I think I'll kind of keep that one. But if anyone wants to enhance it, they can.
Right.
Obviously, I thought it's silly, but I knew that it was 3 pipes, and I didn't know if there was more, but 3 came to mind that I had to put there. I don't know. Yeah.
So here's another thing I think I would like to share, which is, Ed Harris, because I had an experience with the warden when I was a child. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in the previous video, but I remember being chased by an evil person again and again, always imprisoning me, and I always got out. But every time I got out, I got together my people, because I had people and he had people. Again just caught me and again put me into prison. So that was the story. So let me just share my screen here. And I think there were a couple of people who mentioned Ed Harris. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
And they mentioned that he is playing, this kind of warden character in many movies, and I was like,
he does it in so many. He's probably a previous warden, he's playing,
or the current one. Who knows? Because as you said,
he's playing cameo roles. They love cameo roles,
Yeah. So one of the big movie that he's in is the Westworld, obviously.
Oh yeah.
And he's the one who's coming for the people to rescue them and set them free, right? And dissect them and whatnot. So it's ridiculous. He's also in Geostorm. I watched that movie as well. And again, he's the bad guy there who kind of lied about everything and kind of infiltrated the system. And then we have here another one, which is a little bit down at the trying to find it. Beautiful Mind, but it's not the one that I'm looking for. He has loads of movies, as you can see. It's like
he's got so many. There's a few actors that do all these roles that are totally related to the warden and the system, and they're just constantly in them. It's crazy.
So in 1998, The Truman Show, and obviously he's Christoph, the warden in the movie, right?
Notice Christoph.
Yeah,
Christoph.
Exactly. So Christ is, representing obviously the warden, God, the dog. Yeah. It's the same character. It's just different names. So here he's playing that God character in The Truman Show, and he's behind the moon. Now there was another one, Apollo 13, again 1995. And he was playing the character of, in the communication center. He was the big boss, basically. He's always some kind of leading negative, a negative person. And look, it's just like goes on and on. Like I'm not sure how can you make so many movies in a lifetime? 1976, and he's still doing it. It's just crazy.
But it's, as you know, an actor-based reality. And I think that whenever we should use the word actor-based reality, I think that we should give some sort of honor to Ed Shireen, even though he's not hasn't gone deeper. I really appreciate the fact that he did coin the phrase actor-based reality.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because it's a huge thing. And I mean, he's been squashed by, he doesn't earn anything off YouTube, or, it's depressing for these leaders, in information. And that's part of why I started to question, there's many different people that can help you, but it's an actor-based reality. And I don't know if they go back to some place, just like in the Truman Show, where he opens up the door and they're all behind there. I don't know, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, probably, because they never show what happens after. It's just the black door, and he disappears. So whatever happens there. But what I wanted to share about this guy is that when people told me that that this guy could be the warden, I had these kind of, flash memories, or, like weird feeling about this guy, looking at his face, and I kind of remembered him from, my, so
like I said, there are several wardens. There are several wardens, and I didn't want to confuse people in the previous video, but there are several wardens. Like it's a bit like shift work, I suppose. Maybe different resets, or they're all on similar type things. Maybe it depends on the year that you're born. I don't know.
Right. Or maybe they even have 3 shifts a day or whatever, or every week or every month. Who knows?
Yeah, I know. So above, so below. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. So anyway, actor-based reality. Yeah. So, okay, let me stop sharing this screen. So do you have anything else to share about the asylum, about the warden? What should we look out for? What should we, research, in your opinion? Anything that you would like to close this discussion with?
Well, I think we can go on a bit longer because people go on for 4 or 5 hours, you don't care. So I'll just stretch it out a bit further. I've had many attacks before I started to put the pieces together, and I've told you about it, literally, I would be ripped out of my body sometimes and dragged down the hallway. And I actually would think that somebody, this is why I have to be careful, don't use drugs, don't use what is it? What do they use, DMT?
DMT.
Because that's distorting your mind. You can't use a fake substance. They either choose you to be able to travel or they don't. I would not use DMT. Right, and if someone wants to contact me personally as to why, I can explain it in more detail. But you don't want this brain distorted, because then you are easily controlled, and people talk about all sorts of weird things that they're seeing, and it's not, you're using a drug, a synthetic drug, whether it be plant-based or whatever. But they would actually rip me out of my body and I would be dragged. And so I actually thought, until I started to realize they can't harm me in the ether, I'm not actually being dragged down the hallway, my body's still there. And I stopped being scared of them, and I said, you have no jurisdiction to do this to me. You have no jurisdiction. But I would also get in my shop, because one of the things about this gift is that if you have this gift, quite often you suffer with anxiety, really bad, because you don't like to be here. This world is terrifying, and you're much more aware of the senses. So anxiety is a huge thing. So I really was struggling with the whole thing. Luckily, I had just had people give me messages, but one day, so on Saturday mornings, my shop would be open, and this guy came in. I was talking to a customer of mine. I can actually give you her personal name to prove this. I'm not going to obviously put it online, but she could be a witness to this. She was in there. We're talking about some deep stuff, and I think it was about similar stuff to do with, this is back in 2012, I think, maybe 2013 at the latest. We're talking about deep stuff, and this guy walks in, very nondescript. Kind of looks a bit like Ed Harris, actually, but a little bit older, but just kind of strange, but kind of similar, sort of a slim guy. And he came in the shop, and I thought, okay, and he got a shaving soap off I've never seen him before in my shop ever, never met him, and he said, I love your soap. And he got a really small piece of soap, and I said, because I cut it by hand, but every now and again I cut a small one, and I'll just usually put that in the pile for the cheap discounts. Yeah. And I said, oh, I'll get you another, and I said, no, it's fine. And suddenly it's like time stopped. And I knew to stand still. So I stood still, and I looked over at my friend, and I won't say her name, I have to be careful to say her name, customer friend, and she was laying on the floor, and my workbench, which is very heavy, stainless steel with all sorts of things, oils, and was dragged across the room, and she was on the floor. But I knew not to move. So I didn't move, and I just focused on him. And then I noticed that he had, as if he'd stuck his hands in a bucket, and brake dust, had exploded up his arms. So I don't know if I lost time or what, but I suddenly looked at him, and he had brake dust. You ever seen brake dust on a wheel on a on a wheel,
Mhm.
not on a wheel, on a like on a inner of a wheel. It was like, and you could see he just stuck his hands in a bucket and exploded something. And I said, and I knew, and my usual response would be to run over to my friend who's collapsed over on the floor, and my workbench has moved. I didn't hear a sound. There was no sound. So I just said, because I don't know what to do, I said, oh, do you want me to, I've got a soap that can wash that off, if you want to. This is what I said. And he said, oh, no, I have something for that I use. He just said to me that, I love your soaps, they're great. And here I am offering something, and he's got this fucking hands up to here with this like crazy brake dust looking stuff on his hands.
Yeah.
And so he said, I've got something for that. And he walked out. And then of course, as soon as he walked out, I ran to my friends and I said, I gave her some distilled water and I was thinking magnesium. I went over to her and I, sort of picked her head up, and she was just like looking at me. She was like, oh, she didn't know what happened. And I was like, this workbench is just dragged across the room. And she said to me, she said, Angela, there's all these silver threads all over you. And I said to her, because you fainted, you're just seeing silver threads. And she looked at me and she said, no, but they're only around you. Only around you. And I thought, she's just passed out, so she's seeing things, And so anyway, I picked her up, gave her some water and some magnesium and different things. And then she sort of got better, and she said, it's like something happened and I started to fall. And she said, but something grabbed me and held me and lifted me slowly to the floor and cradled me as I went to the floor. And it was that very, And she said, still around you, Angela, there's all silver threads. And I thought, I don't understand what you're saying. But that morning I'd had someone from Canada actually send me an email, which I didn't have time to open because I had to go to work. And she said, you have to look at this email. I said, I can't, I really can't. And so for some reason I thought, I'm going to open up that email. Something told me to open up that email. And guess what it was about? It was about the colors of the different things. And I'm not saying I'm an angel, but it said if there's silver threads around you, it means you're an angel. Now, that email was sent to me that morning, and please block out her name, but she told me repeatedly that she saw those around me. And I actually think that he was an angel, a good one, and he came in and just blasted the negative because I was getting so attacked. And so he came back a week later at exactly the same time, the same guy, never seen him before, and he walked in. And at the time I was very quiet. I wasn't like as open as I am now, because I think it was back 2011, and he said to me, he said, Angela, he said, you didn't come back to buy anything. He said, what do you think about these chemtrails and these vaccines and, different things? And I just said, I don't know. What do you think? Because after the last time I saw him, I'm just like, I don't know. I said, I don't know. What do you think? And he said, it's wrong. And he said, I'm not going to have it. But the way he said it was with such power and energy that it shocked me. He said, I'm not going to have it. And he walked out the door.
You are not going to have it, or he is not going to have it?
He says, I'm not going to have it. He's not going to put up with it anymore.
Okay.
And he literally got on his heel and walked out the shop. And that's the last time I ever saw him again. But he was there to ask me what I thought about it. I was just like, well, I don't know. What do you think about it? Because that's the last time I saw you. You let move things around my shop. But also I didn't want to be open. I was a bit more scared about being open about what I knew about chemtrails and fluoride. And he was asking me what I thought. And
interesting.
But you had to be there. And we both sat there, her and I, afterwards saying, how would we ever explain this to anyone else? Like how would we ever explain this? Like you just couldn't. Because you had to be there, but
and this was very real, right? And it wasn't even like a so-called out-of-body experience at night. It was just in the daylight.
Yeah, they can take on human form. You may meet a homeless person. Like I knew one day, I drove past. I had to go to a shop with somebody else, and I drove past somebody, a homeless guy who was standing out in the street. And we don't have a lot of homeless guys, around Wagga. It's not very common. And I think it takes a lot of guts to be homeless. In fact, that takes a lot of guts. But I said to this friend, I said, I think he's an angel. I don't even know where it came from. It just came. So you've got to trust your gut instinct sometimes, as long as you're being true to yourself, and, as long as you're not an NPC, which you probably won't be getting the right messages. Sorry. But we went past him once, and he said he was talking to himself, and still felt, I think he's an angel. And as we went past back from the shop that we're at, he was talking about saving somebody's life. I've forgotten exactly what I said. I should write these things down. But there's no way he's a normal human being. So you never know when you're in the presence of an entity. They're around us. And in that movie, The Adjustment Bureau, they do appear. And so anyone who says, oh, there's no such thing as spirits, I'm sorry, but there just is. And they can be around you at any time. And I think that the real, if you're not an NPC, you do have ones who help you from outside, and you can call them. Yeah.
I had a similar experience when once I was in Budapest and went up to one of the mountains called Gellért, and I just went up there. Sometimes I like to spend some time there and look at the city. And at that time I was still a Christian, so I was kind of praying and stuff. Looked around, and then suddenly I see an old guy coming up, climbing up as well. And I had this feeling that he's someone with a message, kind of like an angel, and I had no idea what's going to happen. So he comes there, and he chooses to come to me, sit down next to me, and he starts to ask questions, like, how are you doing? How is the city? Just like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, why would you?
It's a feeling you had. You had that feeling, and and it came from nowhere.
Yeah, and by the way, this guy was English or American. He had an American accent, and this was in Budapest, right? I was a Hungarian guy, but he knew that he can talk to me in English. He didn't even ask me whether I speak English or something. He just started to talk to me in English, like he had a mission. And he asked me, what is going on? How is it going? Things like that. And once we did that kind of interaction, then he said he's going away. And then I was like, okay. I just looked back to where I was looking.
So he's going away. He was probably there to check you out and to read you, to read you.
And then I looked back, and he was just gone. Like, he literally disappeared.
That's what I was going to tell you next, about the guy outside Aldi. So there was this homeless man. He'd sit. He would be crumpled, on his, just be sitting at. Do you have Aldi in Hungary? Aldi is a Okay, so he would sit out there, and he'd have his little hat. And I just thought, he's an angel. And I don't do this about homeless people, but I just felt his presence. It was so strong. I could feel his energy. Talk about charisma. I can pick up on these things. But I kind of ignore it, because I just think, I always ignore it. I'm starting to not, but I'll always question myself. And I think you should always question yourself, because that's an important thing to do too. So I would give him whatever change I had, even if I couldn't afford it. Whatever coins I had, I just decided I was going to give it to him. And it was one day he was there, and he was sitting there, and I gave him all my coins, and I literally turned my head like this, and then turned around, and he disappeared. Yeah. And I thought, where did you go? And I looked around. There's nowhere to run. We're not in the middle of where he could actually go into doors or whatever. I went around the corner. I went everywhere. I literally was 3 seconds that I just turned my head, and then because I thought he's an angel, and then he disappeared, and I went looking for him. And then I have a friend of mine and you don't need to bleep this out, my friend Robin here in Wagga. She's an old lady who the Catholic Church uses for her gifts to do exorcisms. And she's a lovely, lovely lady, but she has gifts. And the story she told me, and she's no liar, she's the most truthful person you could ever meet in your whole life. But I told her, I said, there's this guy outside Aldi, and I said, and he just disappeared. And she said, oh, the one outside, I go, oh, he's an angel. She said it before I said it. She just knew. She knew it was an angel. Because we shop in the same place. And I was just like, but he literally just went, poof, disappeared.
Wow.
But every single other person was ignoring him. And I just felt his goodness, and I just, I knew it was an angel the first time I saw him, but I don't know how I knew it. So we've got to learn to obey our gut instinct.
Right.
You
I
got
would like
instinctive spirit.
I would like to go back to the DMT kind of thing because this is an interesting one. The ayahuasca. You know, I was researching that for quite some time, and I I was planning to do that, but then I dropped it because I saw people taking that, and I watched you know, like testimonials, and they said, you know, I saw these spirits who told me that everything is in balance, and there is no good, there is no bad, it's all in balance, and there are all these planets, and everything is
Oh,
good.
yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, you know, I didn't hear it just from one person but several, and it's just like, what the fuck, it doesn't it doesn't resonate with me, you know,
They
like I
also
totally,
all stop researching. They all stop researching
yeah,
because they think they've seen the truth. But remember, it's the warden's world. It's the warden's plant.
right.
It's
So
the warden's
so
plant.
do you have also like experience from, you know, people taking this drug
Oh, yeah.
and going through similar?
I have seen people go complete. They've seen planets which don't exist. It's all CGI. Exactly the same thing. They stop researching. They become very. I'm not saying that every single person that's taken ayahuasca is like that. Not at all. There are probably people who have different, experiences. Maybe their mind's a lot stronger that are on your channel that might be able to tell us something different. But I have seen so many people who tell me about this, and they just get. They just say the worst thing about it is they say there is no good and there is no bad. It's all what is. And basically they also say, and like I'm saying, there might be people who haven't had that experience after trying our ayahuasca. They also say that if it happens to you, it's because you created it. No, I'm not buying that bullshit. So you create your baby dying, you create this. No, that's garbage and that's nasty, and I have no part of that. You know, they say if a bad thing happens to you, then it's because you willed it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's like shit, and I think it's
That's
cruel.
kind of a new
It's,
age kind of.
it's evil. It's evil. To me, that's evil. Very evil. Because bad things happen to good people, but
Yeah,
often bad people have nothing bad happen to them. They have the
yeah,
world of their feet, and they say, oh, money doesn't give you happiness, and all they have to worry about is their freaking toenails and everything else. But they have a wonderful life. But
right.
there's beautiful people that have had horrible things happen to them. And I've seen ayahuasca tell me that it's all good and there's no bad and there's no good. Even child molesting, I've had them tell me
Wow.
after they've used ayahuasca, child molesting, it's not bad, it's not good, it's just what is. And
Right.
it's just like, no, it's fucking wrong. There has to be, you have to draw a line in the sand between what's right and what's wrong, you know, and it's, yeah.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you is about the prison versus asylum.
Oh, yeah. That's a really important thing because, you know, it's a similar thing, but in a prison, you have the rights to phone home, right? So when they said to me, when I came back from the big travel and I knew it was asylum, I knew Earth was asylum. That was the description. That was the English translation for it. The reason is it's not a prison is because in prison, you can call home. You still have your memory. You're not given drugs. So people in serious asylums, they're drug fucked. You know, they're just like sitting there, whatever they're doing. So they have less rights. They can't call home. They can't do anything. And a lot of the time they can't even have visitors. Asylum is the translation rather than prison because prisons have far more freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are in asylum as well because we are drugged, right? Through chemtrails.
It doesn't mean we deserve to be in the asylum. Just like a lot of people in asylums were put in when they shouldn't have been. Actually, a lot of these people that can hear voices, have you done a show on that? Or someone has on hearing voices and things?
No, I
They're
haven't.
probably just, well, it must have been somebody else. They're probably just hearing the different entities talking to them, and they're not, and they're considered crazy. I'm sure there are a lot of crazy people, but some of them aren't so crazy because my cousin actually got put into a place when she was a teenager having some issues. And this girl, which is why she has a lot of respect for me now, was saying all the things in the bed next to her that I'm saying. And she said they would stick a needle in her and knock her out. And she was saying the same things that I'm saying. So
Wow.
that's why it's not prison, it's asylum. Much worse than prison. Yeah.
So again, why are we saying that this is not a prison but an asylum? What
Because an asylum is they drug you. So we're all being drugged.
We are being drugged, right?
Well, serotonin. If you run out of serotonin, you basically want to die. Like that drug, like you just. And I have had an experience when I was fighting the system and that where I ran out of serotonin. And well, they say it's serotonin. I'm not sure, because I don't really necessarily go along with all the stuff that they say. And I literally woke up and I wasn't suicidal, but I just thought, I don't want to be in this place. This place is shit. So I could see it for exactly what it was. I saw it for the shithole that it is.
Right.
Like we said, kill or be killed from a bacterial level up. And I could see all of it. And then I had to, because obviously I've got children and, and I wasn't suicidal. I just thought, this place is shit. And I could see it. So we're drugged.
And also closed. And also closed, and then we can't go home, right?
Yeah, we can't call home. No. I can, but most of us can't. But I can't when I want to. Like I can ask for things, but I don't always get answered. No.
Right. So anyway, I think this is a good place to end this. I have to go. So if you have any other things you would like to mention at the end, how people can reach you. For instance, you could mention that, or any other tips, or whatever you want to say.
Well, I'm thinking about if people email me questions, I may consider doing personal help, but I certainly won't be teaching them. I'll be helping them to find their own way. I'm not going to be one of those, which I'm totally against, those people that teach you how to connect, or they connect for you and they actually do it for you. That's wrong. You have to. The most important message I want to put in is that you need to connect yourself. You don't use another person to tell you your future, your past, or to connect you with spirits, because that's your job. And you could be talking to tricksters. So there's a lot of tricksters out there.
Good. So anyway, thank you for joining me again. And
thanks, my friend. I really value it. Like I knew you were a good researcher. That's the only reason why I ever contacted you in the first place. Like I could see that you're getting it. Like keep going. And I know you struggle with finances and all that sort of stuff. And I'm just hoping that people, well, I actually think that they will start to realize that you're different, because and okay, some of them didn't like the polygamy things. But you know what? You're brave enough to say, well, I'm not going to do it to be popular. I'm going to do what is my way,
Exactly. Yeah,
I'm going to tell the truth. No.
All right.
Okay.
So see you in the next one.
Okay. See you, Barnabas. Bye.
Bye.